Okay, in this section we're going to be doing a complete tour of the Excel tabs and ribbon. And I'm really excited about this section because I've never seen it done before in a course, and my goal with this section is to give you a really broad understanding of all of the tools and tabs that are available to you in Excel, and to expand your Excel vocabulary immensely so that when you talk about Excel or when you're working with Excel, when you come across new things while you're in Excel or through a conversation with a colleague, you're going to have a better understanding of what they're talking about or what you're looking at in Excel. So what do I mean by a tour of the tab and ribbons? Well, across the top here we have all of these tabs, and these are all for different Excel ribbons. And as you've probably noticed as you're going through Excel, it can be kind of overwhelming. Just on the Home tab alone, you have dozens and dozens of tools and features, many of which you may not even know what they are. And as we've gone through the course, we've covered a lot of different things, but we haven't gotten in depth into each and every one of these things. So in this section, I'm going to cover about 90 to 95% of all of the tools in here. And I'm going to give you examples as often as I can so that you don't just have a theoretical understanding of these things, you actually have some hands-on practice, seeing how they work and being able to do something with these tools yourself. Okay? So in this section, each lecture is broken down into its own tab, and some tabs are going to take 2 or even 3 lectures to cover the entire thing. But that's how in depth we're going to go into the ribbon. And I'm also going to try and cover each tab chronologically from left to right, so that if you need to find a certain tool group later, you can kind of skim or fast forward through the lecture for that tab to find that specific tool. So we're going to cover the Home tab with all of its formatting and cell styles. We're going to cover the Insert tab, which covers pivot tables, illustrations like shapes and pictures, spark lines, filters, charts, and more. We're going to cover the Page Layout tab, which is all about how you set up your page, particularly for printing, and we'll talk a lot about themes and colors. We'll go into the Formulas tab, which you've already learned a lot about formulas by now, but we'll get a little more in depth into some of these. And more importantly, we'll get into how to use defined names for cells and ranges, and how to audit your formulas, which just kind of helps you manage and correct your formulas. We'll get into the Data tab, which is all about getting data from outside sources, setting up queries and connections to outside sources, using sorts and filters, and other things like flash fill, removing duplicates from a range or list of numbers, and so on. We'll get into the Review tab. This is where you can do things like proofing. We'll look at how to add comments and navigate through comments, delete comments, how to show them, and then we'll get into protecting your workbook. So you can actually lock cells, you can lock ranges of cells, and do a whole bunch of things with the Protect section. We'll get into the View tab. We'll cover all of these tools, and primarily what we'll look at, which is new, something that hasn't been covered in the course, is the Windows group of tools. So how to arrange multiple windows within one screen, and a whole bunch of things to go with that. And we'll even touch on macros, but really macros we'll be talking about in the Developer tab, where we go into Visual Basic, recording macros, security, talk about add-ins a little bit, talk about adding controls like buttons to run your macros, and so forth. Oh, and I didn't mention we'll also be covering the File tab, which has its whole list of tools here, including your options, printing, saving, and so forth. Okay, so buckle your seatbelts because there's going to be a ton of new information coming to you, as well as some good review of some of the things you've already learned. But by the time you're done with this section, I promise you that you're going to have a much more solid understanding of the entire tool set in Excel, so that when you look at this dashboard, when you look at these different tabs and these different ribbons and tools, you're no longer going to just look at them with a blank stare wondering what the heck all these things do, because you're going to know what they do and even have some experience using all of them.